time for our last speaker, and I wanted to get up here and introduce him. I had the privilege of working with his campaign a little bit, and I think I set up maybe 2 or 3 speaking engagements for him. And one of them, I just want to tell you the story real quick, is it was at the Conservative Women's Group of Henry County. And he was supposed to have the floor for about 20 minutes and take questions. And they're not an affiliate of the GOP. But Sue Everhart, we got any fans of Sue Everhart here? But anyway, she was supposed to be there also. We didn't realize this at the time. But the chairwoman, said that Chuck would still be able to speak. So we went and went. And Sue come in, of course, and come in there and told the chairwoman and said, if Chuck is allowed to speak, she's going to lead. So, of course, she bowed down, and we let everybody know there, of course, that Chuck was not going to be able to speak because of what Sue Everhart said. And the funny thing is, I just want to tell you about this, because Chuck is so laid back. He actually, right before Sue Everhart went out the door, he ran across the room and said, "Hey, my name's Chuck Donovan," and let her go out the door. And I just thought that was, I just thought it was funny at the time, because Sue Everhart just looked at him like, why are you even shaking my hand? But anyway, I just want to introduce our 2010 U.S. Senate candidate, Chuck Donovan.
You're going to tell that story. I'm going to tell you the rest of the story. Sue, ever the diplomat, said, "You ought to be a Republican." I said, "I tried that for 32 years. You got to get by me to get to dinner." And Danny said to keep talking until the checkbooks come out. And I got a little bone to pick to start with. Somebody began a rumor that I am going to retire and campaign full-time for something. There's 2 problems with that. It sounds fun, by the way, but what makes you think that I make enough money to retire and then just go off and do campaigns full-time? I have no pension, and on my retirement day, when I collect my last paycheck, I'm going to take out that cool little airline captain name tag and put on a different kind of name tag. And I'm going to stop saying, "Welcome aboard, sir," and I'm going to say, "Sir, would you like fries with that today?" The other problem is, airline pilots now retire at age 65. Now that just took place, that change in the rules took place only within the last 3 years. But I'm wondering who thinks I'm that close to age 65. I'm close enough as it is. Don't rush me. I want to begin by recognizing a few people that worked very hard. I got associated with the platform committee, and I want to make it clear that everybody else, first of all, I'm very proud to be associated with them, but everybody else did the heavy lifting on that. And I think credit's due where it should be, and Brad Clover provided excellent leadership for the committee. The committee made a bold move, and I'm really excited that the membership unanimously approved it. I think we're setting a standard in the Libertarian Party. It's very, very exciting. I want to thank the other 2010 candidates. I haven't done that before, and they've kind of thinned out in the crowd. But you guys did a fantastic job. And you made us all look good, and I'm very proud to be associated with you as well. I want to thank everybody who supported the Donovan for Senate campaign, including all the people who did so much work. Those of you who were generous contributors, there's a few in this room, and the general membership who helped to pay for the filing fee. Thank you for that. We beat the Democrat to radio and television advertising. I'm proud of that. We received endorsements from a Republican Party affiliate, from the Georgia State Tea Party, and from several prominent Republican individuals. We got support from 3 or 4 Tea Party affiliates, depending on how you look at it. It seems to me there are libertarians in the Tea Party, and we need to answer the question, why? I began my campaign with nothing, including political experience, public speaking experience, or connections. We raised about $15,000 in cash, another $5,000 in contributions in kind. According to his FEC summary report, Johnny Isaacson began with $2.3 million, and remarkably ended with a little less than $1.2 million. In between, they have receipts for about $6 million. Now, to be fair, they didn't spend that all on his campaign, but we're going to use those numbers. And note that unlike the debt-ridden government that Johnny Isakson has helped to build, his campaign reports itself to be debt-free. Using his numbers, the cost per vote for Johnny was about $4. Mine was about 22 cents. His spending was roughly $400 for every one that we spent. My conclusions after my first campaign are best summed up by Harry Brown, who said that America does not have a two-party system by popular demand. They've legislated the libertarians into irrelevance with their campaign laws. This is what it takes to hold libertarians to 3% of the vote. This is what it takes to intimidate, control, and humiliate the electorate into thinking that a vote for real liberty is a wasted vote. It's a fight, my friends, and it's not going to end. I'm not done with it. That leads right into the question I've most tried to answer since my campaign, or since Election Day. What do we do next? So I'm going to tell you a little Marine Corps story. After a series of spectacularly stupid mistakes and decisions by the so-called leadership of the Truman administration, 20,000 Marines found themselves surrounded by about 100,000 Chinese troops on a reservoir named Chosin in what is now North Korea. It was November, and they became known as the Frozen Chosen. There was a Marine there whose name you won't soon forget. He was a regimental commander, then Colonel, later Lieutenant General, Louis B. Chesty Puller. His famous quote from Chosin. All right, they're on our left, they're on our right, they're in front, and they're behind us. They can't get away now. My fellow libertarians, the enemies of liberty are all around us. From where you are, you might see other threats, but for me, it's all about the money. I became a libertarian officially only about 3 years ago. It happened after a lot of reading with material from the Mises Institute and the Foundation for Economic Education. Here's what I see in our situation. It's not pretty. We're now witnessing the effects of monetary chaos caused primarily by fiat money. It's been made worse by continued inflation of the supply of dollars, and hence the continued inflation of American prices, which show no sign of abating. Murray Rothbard described in the 1980s and warned of a monetary breakdown and economic warfare abroad. As we witness the actuality of Rothbard's predictions playing out in other countries, the mainstream media devotes its limited resources to focusing on the bad boys in charge of those countries. Professional journalists have decided to avoid discussions that include the obvious links to U.S. monetary policy and a grown-up discussion about inflation. The new White House budget projects a delusional rate of GDP growth of 5%, and many in the Central Politburo here in the U.S. can possibly expect our budget to grow to the point where the deficit will effortlessly decline by $1 trillion over the next 5 years. Their projections are propped up by equally dreamy and unrealistically low inflation, unemployment, and interest rates. No one in D.C. is considering paying off or even paying down the national debt. Instead, they have plans to allow the debt to grow at, quote, manageable rates. Thus, Washington is sentencing generations of future Americans to the shackles of unending interest payments. And Johnny Isakson, not me, recently gave us this cogent thought. Quote, anytime you don't have jobs and prices are going up, you're going to have some degree of instability. You're speaking of recent events in other countries, but no doubt that will be an apt description of what's going to happen here. This week he added, I am extremely concerned with recent events in the Middle East and their impact on gas and oil prices. Johnny Isaacson understands the political adage, when in doubt, fix the blame. My friends, oil prices have only a little to do with instability in other countries, and much to do with nationalism and imperialism in our foreign policy. Our central banking and monetary policy, our fiscal policy are at fault as well, and our long-time business policy, the structure of which can only be accurately described, and I use this in its full definition, as fascism. This false recovery we're now enjoying some euphoria over will evaporate in the face of undeniable and rapid increases in food prices, energy, and other things that Americans need to live. And the USA's survival is dependent on the world's confidence in a piece of paper that has no intrinsic value and is being debased as fast as humanly possible. At the heart of the problem is the Federal Reserve banking system, 100% responsible for the world's turmoil and our political and economic turmoil. In short, we are aboard the Titanic headed for the iceberg, and the so-called leadership is downstairs arguing over who will pick up the bar tab. Only the libertarians are attempting to break into the wheelhouse with the intention of turning the ship around. Only our candidates are willing to stand up and tell American voters the truth, that we are in deep trouble and drastic and painful measures are necessary as soon as possible. This is why I am an active libertarian. Like the frozen chosen, we are surrounded, and the situation appears grim. But Chesty Puller, apparently an optimist, said, hey, it's actually a good deal. We can aim our guns in any direction and hit the enemy. So whatever direction you choose to work for liberty, I think that your efforts are correct. I say go ahead and play to your strengths and to your passions. My passion is obviously about economics and economic history. But if you choose legislative activism, presentations to community organizations, publishing or appearing in the media, fundraising, maybe campaign staff training, maybe support FEE, or the Mises Institute, or LEAP, or the Institute for Justice, or the Reason Foundation. I think you're doing the right thing if you do these things as a libertarian with the intent of expanding the message and the party and reducing government intervention in our lives. I agree with Lou Rockwell that all forms of government intervention amount to an attack on prosperity and morals and civilization itself, and thus must be stopped and opposed at all levels. Basically, go ahead and aim your guns in any direction. But the main duty of a political party is to run political candidates. This is the primary tool we use to reach and educate people as the Libertarian Party. There would likely have been no Donovan for Senate campaign, and certainly fewer of the other campaigns last year, without the support that this party gave us. That's financial, logistical, and ideological support. What we cannot do, despite the odds, is to give up, and I don't think anybody's suggested it. But our candidates have to be there even if they are just annoying gnats buzzing around the ears of Leviathan. At the very least, the electorate need to see the anointed ones roll their eyes as we walk in. We should be professional but remain forceful with our message of no theft and non-initiation of force. We have to reach people outside our party with the message of liberty. Running solid libertarian candidates with a solid libertarian platform, that's how we do that. Expanding party membership, fundraising, mentoring candidate support teams and future candidates themselves is how we run candidates. There's another thing we cannot do. The frozen chosen knew the enemy was all around them and they could aim in any direction. But they never considered taking their guns and aiming them inward. I offer you a lesson I was taught as a young Marine lieutenant. Leaders praise their people in public and punish them in private. I know there are libertarians who don't get it, or they have their priorities all wrong, and I might be one of them. I understand it took me a long time to come to the ideology that I now hold dear. Other libertarians are going through a process too. It isn't easy taking the red pill and becoming one of us. I ask you to respect one another. There's plenty to respect in this room. There are plenty of targets to aim at outside of our perimeter as well. You have limited time and resources, and you have a limited amount of time that the attention deficit crowd is going to give you as you publish or speak outside of our group. How will you use those few minutes to make us look good? What kind of impression are other people going to walk away, impression of us will other people walk away with? We have to be assertive and consistent, but we must never allow them to think that we are the extremists. Those who think that we can continue to afford this bloated, immoral government, they are the extremists, not us. We have the arduous and very unsatisfying task, I believe, of properly defining our party for the future and setting a stage for future libertarians. Harry Brown taught us because tens of millions of Americans have historical knowledge consisting of one-liners fed to them by government schools, it won't be easy for them to understand. But it's important for you and I to understand if we hope to be effective in restoring liberty to our world. And again from Lew Rockwell. The default position of the world is despotism. In the sweep of things, liberty is the exception. What makes the exception possible is ideological work, and that is spreading ideas through every possible means. Reaching minds is what liberty is all about. One more thing. No group, whether we're talking about something as large as a national government or as small as a condo association, no group has individuals who get 100% of what they'd like to see the group do. The question is not only what do we do next, but what will you do if the group decides to do something a little bit different than what you had planned? Will we stick together as a team? Will we work out our struggles internally and turn to the rest of the world and show a unified face to them? I say we are surrounded by the cult of omnipotent government. Stick together as a team, and I think we can accomplish the mission. Right now, America heads in a backwards direction, away from civil liberties, away from prosperity, and away from peace. The way forward is not through better planning, better central planning. It is not through oil or through metals or through diamonds. It is through the most precious natural resource we have, individual human liberty, and only the Libertarian Party offers it. I get to say one of the last words in the convention, and it's the most important word we know. I want you to say it with me. Our party is named after it. I want you to think about it for just a second before you say it. I'm going to give you a 1, 2, 3. I want you to get it right on the first time because there's a little bit of me in me. And I don't want to do one of those I can't hear you, okay? Think about that word liberty. Hold it in your heart and in your head for a second. Think about how hard you have worked for it. Think about the potential that is being held back in the world. Think about what human beings around the world could achieve with liberty. Think about how far we are from it and how much you and I believe we need it. And on the count of 3, 2, 3.